Hi guys, hope you're well. Just to warn you, the kidney infection has made a return while I was in Devon, which was rather inconvenient, and I'm on pills that make me feel a bit nauseous. So if I turn green or yellow in the face, that is what's going on. First of all, I'll do the one that I got via email from Cheryl, who's a lady from Florida who has been very, very kind to me lately and always checking in with me to see how I'm doing. So she asked whether I was religious. And I think, although I've attended a lot of religious events because family members have been religious, like weddings that have taken place in churches, funerals that have been in churches, and other things because I was a guide and a brownie, and obviously they have a basis of religion as well. But I wouldn't say that I am hugely religious myself, although I have been christened, because obviously that was a decision that my parents made before I was probably informed enough to know what I felt. But I would say that there have been times where I have, you know, prayed for things or spoken to someone otherworldly about, you know, my problems or worries or things that I've felt desperate about. So maybe there is an element of me that does believe there's something there, but I don't know quite what I think it is. So I hope that answers that question. A lot of you were really cute. You said, I don't have a question, but just want to say hey and show some support. So that was really nice. Imogen. This summer I have some work experience in the centre of London, and I was wondering if you have any tips on staying safe whilst out and about. I'm usually not worried about visiting London, but after the recent terror attacks, it's made me a little bit anxious. I totally understand that, and actually I myself have been making decisions based on what's been happening lately. Like, I've been putting myself in less of the situations that I deem maybe more, I don't know, more dangerous or more likely to be under threat. But the fact is that London is probably safer than ever right now because of what's happened. There's going to be even more security about. People are going to be even more vigilant, you know, because of what's happened. And I was speaking to someone actually on this weekend, and what they know someone that works for, I think it was the Ministry of Defence, and they said that they're kind of stopping things happening all the time. There's so much we don't know about that they are preventing all the time, and they're doing a really, really effective and great job. And obviously because of what's happened in Manchester and other parts of the world, we know now that it's not a London-based thing. You know, these people are going to try and do it anywhere now. So we've just got to crack on it as best we can and just be more aware. I've been listening to music a lot less, for instance, when I'm on the Underground or walking around London, just so I can make sure I can hear anything going on if something was to happen nearby. So I just say be alert, and that's all you can do, and try to just carry on as normal. I got a bit tired of people saying, you know, carry on as normal because otherwise they win. But I think as humans, it's natural to be worried and to be a bit apprehensive when things like this are going on so close to home. And I think it's okay to say, I'm a little bit worried, I'm a little bit scared, but try and, you know, break through that and still persevere as possible. Yeah, so I just say good luck. Just concentrate on, you know, working hard on your work experience and making the most of that, and just keep your eyes and your ears alert, I'd say. Gemma Haley, if you could interview anyone dead or alive, who would it be, and what place would you most like to visit? Okay, dead or alive. Obviously David Bowie would have been unbelievable, but I always think with these people that you'd want to interview, one, they've either been asked so many questions before you'd end up doubling up and repeating things, or if you went a different route, like an alternative route of questioning, then you think, is that disrespectful to, you know, the career and the things you should be talking about? Or would it be weird, like for instance, if I said to Dave Bowie, I want to talk to you about gardening because it's different, would that be like weird to then miss out on talking about all the amazing stuff he did with music and imagery and, you know, androgyny and all that sort of stuff? Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent like I always do. I mean, like when I speak to Frank Iero, for example, I try my hardest not to talk about My Chemical Romance because he's talked about that so much. But at the same time, that's what a lot of people want to hear. And like with Laura Jane Grace of Against Me, I tried to not talk about, you know, the transition and the LGBT community because I feel like that's something she's talked about loads in interviews, but then also that's something that people are interested in. So it's hard to work out which way to go with interviews. Alive, I don't know, because I don't know whether I'd want someone that I know that would be challenging, like someone that I know that hates interviews, and to see if I could get a good interview out of them. Like, you know, someone like Tom York who doesn't really do much press. It could be really hard work, but the reward could be great. Someone who's alive. I think someone that's probably a film director, I think. I don't know which one I would go for. Maybe Wes Anderson would be really fascinating. Maybe a film director, yeah. What place would you most like to visit? I'd quite like to go to Mexico. My parents lived in Mexico for a while before I was born, and they finally went back to visit this summer, which I'm really pleased they eventually did. But I'd really like to do it as well. Croatia's been on the list for a while. Costa Rica, I'd really like to see sloths in the wild. I'd like to do an American road trip. I've never done that before. I wouldn't be the one driving, but I'd like to sit in the passenger seat. But my friend Holly goes to India and she thinks I would love it, and it looks absolutely stunning and looks actually really affordable once you're out there, so maybe India as well. Meg. Like you, I'm in the midst of dealing with chronic illness, managing the mental trails that accompany it, and mostly, read worthily, the way other people feel entitled to tell me how I'm mishandling it all. How do you deal with other people's judgments about how you live with challenges they don't understand or can't understand? I'd say this is one of the hardest things about having an illness that isn't kind of largely understood by the masses and by society. I think sometimes I take myself out of situations a lot, which I'm not necessarily saying is a good thing, but just because sometimes I just know it's so much effort to have to explain to people all the time or really try and get them to understand, and you don't want to use your energy in that way sometimes. So I probably step out of situations. I definitely go to less social events now, particularly ones. For instance, if there's one that I know is going to be a really big, heavy drinking one, like a birthday thing or a thing that is a party that I know people are going to get effed up at, I will take myself out of it because, one, I don't want to be the one that's the party pooper, the one that's very quiet or boring or looking for a seat because I need to sit down. And I don't want to have the same old conversation. Oh, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drunk? Or why? And then me having to talk about things I don't really want to talk about in a party setting. I have to say, with family members, I lose my patience quite a lot when they don't understand it, because in my eyes, I feel like they should take the time to read up on it, do some research, or even ask me questions, and it doesn't happen. And I'd be like, if you just, you know, did some research, you would understand why I'm feeling like that, or why I can't do that, or why that's difficult. So I do lose my patience when it comes to that. Sometimes with people I work with as well, like they say, oh, I've secured this amazing opportunity for you, it's really worthwhile you doing. And then I'll explain that actually that situation isn't good for me because that involves me standing on my feet all day. And they'll be like, yeah, but it's really good for networking, it's good for your profile, you should. And I have to be like, I'm not just being a diva here, I'm not being difficult. This is going to make me ill and I'm not getting paid for it, so in my mind it's not going to be really worth it. And then I'll be made to feel bad because obviously they've put in an effort to organise that, and I feel like saying, if there's something you think you're going to try and arrange or organise, come to me first and I'll say whether it's worth you doing that or spending time on that, or whether it's just going to make me unwell. So I understand your frustration, it's very difficult, and I think also with friends and partners, because sometimes they see you on the good days, it's very easy for them to forget that is maybe taking a lot for you to get to that point, or that the day that follows your good day will not be so good. So I feel like it's just constantly giving people reminders of your situation is the only way around it. Sorry, that was long. Hannah McCann. Because you've done a lot of interviews with different band members and artists, was there any time you felt starstruck by someone you've met, and who was it? I don't really get starstruck, because once you've done a few interviews and you spend some time with them maybe before the interview, and you see that the real person a little bit. It might be them quickly scoffing down their lunch before they start their press duties, or it might be them having an argument with their manager, or it might be them on the phone to their girlfriend, and that you can hear that the girlfriend's having a go at them. And you just realise then they are just like you and me. And like, I've interviewed bands that have come straight off their tour bus and they stink. Or there's some that are lecherous, there's some that are having a bad day. And so, like I said, I just have so many moments where I've had that reminder that they're just normal people. There's no reason to think that they're above me or above anyone. So I don't tend to get starstruck. I just get nervous because I want to do a good job and I want to get on with people. But the one instance where I did get a bit starstruck was, I've told this story in another Q&A, but I got locked in a room with all of the Foo Fighters once. And, when that sort of thing happens, you're like, I can't leave and not say hi to Dave Grohl, can I? So I went and spoke to him, and I remember at that point thinking, okay, I do feel a little bit nervous, because I'd always been a Nirvana and Foo Fighters fan and a bit partial to Dave Grohl. So I think in that moment I did feel those little butterfly feelings and probably got a bit sweaty and disgusting. Glad you're feeling better, Sophie. With you saying you find it tiring to reply to everyone, why don't you do a live YouTube video? At least while people are asking you things or just chatting, you can answer verbally. I've always wondered about these things, but I think it's difficult because of the time zones. Like, a video that would work for my UK watchers might be an inconvenient time for people in other parts of the world, so I never know what to do. So that's why I'm regularly doing live streams on Insta Stories. So if you ever want me to do one on Insta Stories, just give me a yell. Mel Z. How much of a role do you think luck plays in your life? The scenario of being in the right place at the right time. I only believe in fate to a certain extent, but once you've done as much as you possibly can on your part, the rest is down to pure chance. I totally think there is something to do with luck, because I have some friends who, for instance, who maybe they don't work that hard, or they haven't chased things particularly hard, and things just seem to fall into place for them. And then I have other people that work their butt off, and they seem to just always miss those opportunities and things don't quite happen. And I don't know whether that's because there's a bigger plan going on, and that's because later down the road something's going to happen that will make all those things that didn't happen make sense. Perhaps that's what's going on. But I definitely feel like I'm someone that luck doesn't shine on favourably, and actually it's got to the point where I feel like I'm a bit cursed. And actually, a few years ago people would say, don't be silly, so things will work out, you're not cursed. But now actually even friends and family say, I think you might be, like, because it does seem to be that, say even with my work experience, for instance, I would be there and I'd get a really good reference. They'd be like, you were great, we wish there was a position for you, blah blah blah. And then I'd leave and the new interns would come in, and then a few months later a position would open, and obviously the people that are there at the time would be the ones that would get priority. So there's a lot of things where I just miss out on things, and then a lot of opportunities have come my way this year, and all of them have not worked out because either they've clashed with something else, I've fallen ill with a kidney infection, or for instance this weekend I turned down a press trip abroad, like a luxury trip, because I had some other things scheduled in work-wise that would probably be more suitable to my channel, and those ended up not materialising. And you just think, ugh. And then a few weeks ago I was meant to be on TV. I was offered a TV job. I'd been Skyping with the producers for a while and things were going well, and they're like, this is the date it is. And unfortunately, it was a date that I had a commitment that I felt emotionally I had to do. It was for a friend, and I felt like if I didn't do it, I would be really letting them down. I'd be a bad friend. And actually, I thought that would haunt me more than having to turn down the TV opportunity. So I had to turn that down. Unfortunately, it was a one-off thing. I couldn't change it to another day because they're not going to change the whole TV cruise schedule for me. And I don't know how I feel about that whole luck thing, because it's kind of scary to have that feeling that things are out of your hands. And that kind of is demotivating in a way, because you want to think that your actions are the main thing that contributes to the results and the things that happen in your life. So when you start to think that maybe they don't, you kind of get those feelings of, oh, why am I bothering? What's the point, sort of thing, which isn't helpful. Although I try not to beat myself up about the things that happened that seem very unlucky, at the same time I try not to think that something else has a control on my life. It's a weird one. I definitely do think I'm unlucky, so I obviously do believe in the whole luck thing.